Wealthy Author Podcast, episode number 31, Creating the Life You Desire and Love You Deserve with Riana Milne. Welcome to another episode of the Wealthy Author Podcast. I am your host, D. Orlando Fortune. This is a show about business and authors. With the growing demand for information, entrepreneurs must learn how to turn their ideas into words on a page that bring in cash and share a unique message. This podcast brings you the strategies, tips, and bars to do just that and do it well using a book. I have a special gift for you, my listeners. You've been listening to the podcast because you're thinking about writing a book. And one of the biggest challenges I hear is, Fortune, I want to write a book, but when I sit down to do it, my brain goes blank. I have all these ideas and poof, they're gone. Well, I've heard you, and I have a solution. Now, what if I told you that you could get rid of that anxiety, that you could plan out your entire book in less than an hour? And do it in such a way that when you finally sit down to write the words will just flow out of you, just like they do when you're having a conversation. You could eliminate the nerves because you have a plan. Now, would that help? Your solution is the 4 Brains templates. This strategy uses both sides of the brain, the logical and the creative, to pull out your message and give you prompts that make writing as easy as answering questions. No more stressing out over the blinking cursor on the screen that seems to be mocking you, or typing out a bunch of garbage that you eventually delete. Grab your copy of the template at thoughtfortunepress.com/4brains and get your message done right the first time. Now, by this time tomorrow, you'll be amazed at how easy it was to finally get started on becoming a real author. Don't wait any longer because you didn't know how to get started. With this template, you'll finally feel confident that you'll be able to write your book. Remember, you're only one book away from your next business breakthrough. Go to thoughtfortunepress.com/4brains and get the goods now. So in today's episode, we're going to have a conversation with Riana Milne. And I just totally enjoyed this conversation because not only is she scientific with like 3 different degrees, but she's also spiritual. And that's just who I am. I love going into the scientific side and the spiritual side of a subject. And that's what you're going to get in this episode. You're not going to go too woo-woo, and you're not going to get too technical either. So you're going to have a conversation that is easy to digest, easy to understand. And if you listen well, you will find some healing through some of the questions and the ideas that Riana gives you during this episode. Some things to listen to are the power of the question, what can I do? Riana mentions it a couple times in this interview, and she gives some ideas on what that actually looks like from a spiritual perspective and how it will affect all your decisions moving forward in your life. Also listen for how to adapt the great there's room for me mindset. Now, this is an interesting idea because as you hear in Riana's story, there's a lot of trauma, a lot of things that happen. And she's always looked at as like she's not going to make it doing whatever it is that she has on her mind to do. But yet she has this simple mindset that helps her to go after what she wants to do anyway. All right, the third thing to look for in here are the 10 traumas of childhood and where to get an assessment. So Riana breaks down what she calls the 10 traumas of childhood and gives questions for you to look at your life and see where there's some trauma that has happened in your life. And so that you're better able to see how you can assess what's going on and then go get help for that or start getting the healing from that area of trauma from your childhood. And it doesn't have to be something major. You just have to listen for that area. You'll find out what I mean there. And to follow that up, she also, as on point number 4 here, is to listen for what it means to climb the rainbow. Yes, he said climb the rainbow towards healing childhood trauma. Okay, so listen for all this information, y'all, and just get your pen and paper ready because this is going to be a great one.
All right, yo, today's conversation, man, we have a lady who has a lot of experience helping people get over themselves. Our guest today, you know what? I got a bio I want to read to y'all right off the bat to set the stage for today's conversation before we get into one of or all of the 7 books that she's written. For those of you who are still worried about writing your first one. All right. So, as a certified global life and love coach and CCTP, which stands for Certified Clinical Trauma Professional, which we'll definitely figure out what that means. I help those 9 to 10 adults who struggle in life and love due to unhealed, unconscious childhood traumas. So many of those people, especially with dealing with recovery and addiction myself. Many have 1 to 3 of the 10 traumas I named, but most have more. Unhealed trauma leads to emotional triggers in life and relationships and unfavorable behavior patterns in business. Failure to launch, fear of risk or growth, high anxiety towards failure or in love, such as jealousy, control, quick temper, codependency, love addiction, and more. Life can be impacted with anxiety, depression, addiction, or not feeling good enough, all from unhealed, unconscious childhood trauma. See, there it is. This topic is very important for women and men to know, to help them evolve to be the best they can be and understand the roadblocks that could be in the way. Riana has written 7 books and writing one on childhood trauma now. Her #1 bestseller, Love Beyond Your Dreams, and it's a 5-star sister book, which is Live Beyond Your Dreams. So you have Love Beyond Your Dreams and Live Beyond Your Dreams. They are part of her life and love transformation coaching courses that sell from $10,000 to $15,000. That's awesome. And as well as give free especially for entrepreneurs who are hearing like, yes, I can do that. And as well as she gives 5 free chapter downloads as an opt-in at rianamilne.com. Definitely have that in the show notes. And she has created 150-page notebooks from research that are original and would not be for sale. Okay. So her books are in the lead into the courses that she have where there is more profound education, and her books are self-published. But they are in the Barnes Noble stores. Definitely love hearing that. I'll hear about that. She dove deep into this topic when she realized she was attracting emotionally unhealthy partners and wanted to know why. And their toxic behaviors and acting out hurt her emotionally, financially, and in business. Wow. She now helps others with their past pain to help them heal and move on to attract emotionally healthy, evolved, and conscious love, as well as to succeed in life and business with the mindset for success. Despite a lot of difficult transition, this mindset kept her going to global success in her niche. And if we can all recognize and help educate this new research, also called ACEs, then we can stop the negative impacts on both adults and children's lives. Riana, welcome.
Hi, Fortune. Thank you so much. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Most definitely. I am fantastic. We both have a little bit of a scratchy throats coming in here. We're not in our most melodic tone, but it's okay. You still speak from authority. I speak from a diaphragm anyway. It's all good.
Good.
All right. So as we go into today's conversation, the first question, just a straight up, just a softball to you. What are you reading now?
I always have 2 to 3 books going at one time, depending what I feel like reading. So I do like, I have a magazine, actually, The Science of Happiness by Time Life. They put out these great article magazines every couple of months. And I see them right in my grocery market. And so if it applies to my clients, it's back-to-back articles. And I'd like to do summaries on those and get them out to my clients or to use them part of my podcast, Lessons in Life and Love. And then I'm reading 2 other different books by Ernest Holmes. And that's from the Center of Spiritual Living. It's using spirituality as part of the mindset for success in all life areas. So I tend to read motivational, inspirational books.
We're going to get around fantastically. I definitely got to include spirituality into success. You can't.
That's right.
Oh, we're going to get on beautifully. But you said something interesting there from the beginning, that you're taking the ideas that you're reading and almost like curating them. Is that what I'm understanding? You're curating them and providing them to your audience on the podcast and so forth.
Yeah, my clients know that it's always about educating. You know, I love Tony Robbins when he says, if you're not growing, you're dying. So you always want to keep growing and learning. So if I see a great article, it's like, oh, my clients and my podcast listeners need to hear this. So then I'll say, this comes from so-and-so magazine, from this author, and I want to tell you the latest stats on love and marriage, you know, whatever. So if it inspires me, I figure it's going to inspire my listeners. And that keeps them growing and learning along with me.
Excellent. So we've got a bar dropped in the first question. We haven't even really got into the questions. You're already dropping the bars on the TLP family. Because look, there's plenty of us out here who are trying to figure out how to create this content for our audience and how to keep them engaged. I get great this nurture sequence, and I don't know how to tell all these stories. And you're like, no, just we're going on a journey, and this is what I've learned today. And I know you may not have seen it, but let me offer some perspective on some things that I'm learning, and I think it'll help you.
Exactly. And then you can always share some of your own stories or your clients' stories around the concept, right? So
bringing it back in, doing some sales in the back end, marketing on it. Interesting. All right, Riana. So for the audience, for TLP families, to get an introduction to who you are, we've had a great introduction in your bio, but just tell us about your business and more importantly, why you do what you do.
The why. Okay. Well, I've been a psychotherapist since year 2000. I got a triple master's in applied clinical and counseling psychology. And I opened up my own practice in New Jersey, Therapy by the Sea, by Atlantic City, and had the practice 14 years. But I also worked in the school systems with kids who had traumatic backgrounds or who were bullying or being bullied, identified ADHD, just struggling in some way. So those were the kids I had. And that was from kindergarten all the way through college. I also worked in a hospital system, the mental health ward for children and adolescents, as well as drug and alcohol facilities as a drug and alcohol counselor and educator, both an adolescent unit and a unit for women from the prison system, which we call drug court. Okay, so working with all this varied background, varied ages, I found very similar concepts around trauma. And, you know, whether it led to addiction or cutting or sadness and depression, suicidal tendencies, these different elements seem to all come into play. And then it hit me personally when I married someone that I really loved. And I knew he was ACOA, which is an adult child of an alcoholic. So my research started there. But there were so many other traumas that he came from that weren't acknowledged in the ACOA work. So that's when my research started getting deeper with the people I was working with and the similarities to his situation. But he would be what I call a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde personality type. Dr. Jekyll, everybody loves, just like the Broadway show. Handsome, charming, you know, the public loved him. And then he had this completely hidden life that ended up not only ruining him, losing his job, his salary, but impacted our marriage and then impacted my work, my job. And, you know, our family structure, we each had 2 kids who were very happy that we were marrying. And, you know, so everything just fell apart by his lack of discretion and impulsivity and addiction. So it's like for my healing, I need to find out what he had, why he did what he did. Because his last comment to me was, I don't know why I sabotage everything I love. And I said, well, I'm going to find out why. So that was my mad mission. And I figured if I can bring this education to the world, it's going to really help improve relationships, love relationships, and how people are treating their children, knowing that there definitely is repercussions in adulthood when kids go through traumatic upbringings.
Interesting. And thank you for being so open right from the beginning. I appreciate the audience being able to hear that someone's hearing it today. They're gonna receive that, knowing that they're not alone. Right. That there is someone out there that's fighting for them, and is fighting, and it's also overcome similar situations. So I thank you for that, for openness.
Well, you know, the research shows, Fortune, that 90% of people have at least 1 to 3 of the 10 traumas that I mentioned on my childhood trauma checklist. So almost all of us are impacted in some way. That's number 1. And number 2, you can't change what you don't understand. That is my favorite quote, by the way, because, you know, people might put a Band-Aid on anxiety with a psychotropic pill, or taking a pill for depression, but they're not getting to the root of the issues, which is the years of in utero, 0 to 11 is stage 1. And then I'd say from 11 to 17 is stage 2, because you could have a good childhood, but have traumatic early love experiences as well. So those years are very delicate to what your relationships are as an adult.
Yes. You talk about this stuff, and I'm like piecing together all these little girlfriends I had going into the middle school. I was like, is that why I can't hold it? But there was really something that happened in my personal life when I got into college, and it's a cycle, and it was like the catalyst that took me off into drugs and alcohol, just really spiraling into that. To the point where I ended up in the drug court myself. So I thank you for people.
You know what that is. Yeah.
So I appreciate people like yourself who help us, who are truly trying to change to get that. Because I wouldn't be talking to you right now if it wasn't for drug court.
Yeah. It's interesting. When I was hired as a specialty counselor. And I went in, and it's like, why do we have to meet you on a Saturday? It's our morning off. I said, ladies, this is all the time I have to give you. I work morning to night, but I was hired on a special grant to teach you some life skills. And I promise you this, I'm not going to mention the words drug or alcohol. And they're like looking at each other, then what are we going to learn? I said, everything else. But you need, when you get out here, parenting skills, communication skills, job interview skills. And these ladies, the second time I went, the first time I went, they were in the robes and curlers and were very mad at me. And the second time, they're all dressed up, hair and makeup. Good morning, Miss Riana. They were very happy to see me. And it was a year-long project. And these women got their resumes done. They learned Dress for Success. They learned parenting. I mean, so many important skills, the importance of spirituality, and even not always identifying as I'm an alcoholic. No, I'm a loving child of God. Stand up and say that. They're like, are we allowed? So someone going to tell you can't do that?
Is that what allowed?
It's mindset. Yes. You don't have to stay stuck in that negative label forever. That's the way I look at it. Yeah.
No, I get you. I mean, for myself, when people ask me, do you not drinking this and that? I was like, yeah, I'm allergic. I just tell them right off the bat. And then it's more of a test for me, because if they know what that means, and they know why they know what it means. But the other side of it is what people I tell them is I'm a grateful recovering addict. That's like,
there you go. You can say that too.
I express it like I know that's part of me, but I'm grateful and I'm recovering, and I want to express that into the world, put that out there, continue to say that, so my mind continues to accept that I'm grateful that I am recovering.
That's right. There you go. That's a more positive way to put it. That's right.
Absolutely. So with this idea that you have here about helping with people when they're coming from this place of not knowing what's going on early in their life, it's true. It manifests in so many different areas of their life, whether that's in relationships, finances, and business, and so forth. What was it that made you write that first book about it? Because you said you was like, I'm going to figure this out for you, and that's awesome, but that doesn't mean that you're going to share it with anybody else.
Well, I haven't written that book yet. That book's number 8. That's the one on childhood trauma. Okay. My first book I wrote at age 26, and that was for my model and talent agency in school.
Okay, so before we get to the Love and the Life, Love and Live books, 26 years old. I'm not thinking about writing any books, man. I'm out being a 26.
Well, my life was very interesting. It was very difficult all of a sudden. I was a young mom. My daughter Alexi and Stefana were a year apart, and I divorced due to my ex-husband and his father frauding my mom out of a large sum of money. Wow. So I was 26 years old, $750 million bankruptcy, couldn't get a loan, 2 little girls to support. And I opened up a model and talent agency with my first month's rent and said, I can make this work. And I was going through the pieces in there, present your textbook. And I was going before the Board of Education in Pennsylvania. I thought, okay, 4 people are going to be there. I showed up, they're there. Where's your attorney and your accountant? It's like, you're looking at her, it's all me. And it was 40 people in a U-shaped, huge room, grilling me to see if I deserved to be a school or not. So I didn't realize what I was really taking on as I was doing it. I just did it because it was my survival and that of my children. So long story short, there was no modeling book out there on real people models, which is what I defined we are. So I have people from 5 to 85, because only a certain percentage of people can be fashion models. You have to have a certain height and a certain look, and, you know, and the rest are commercial real people. And that's what I was featuring. So we had people in hospital ads and bank ads and on billboards, and yes, we did some fashion shows too and promotional stuff, but primarily it was commercial real people. So I had to write the book. So it was 250 pages. I hired someone to do some illustrations, and everyone that came into my talent school had to buy one. So I put a price of $50 on it, which was expensive back then, but they couldn't buy it anywhere. And they had to have all the techniques in there to learn to be a professional model, actor, singer, or dancer. You know, they had to learn the business. So that was my first book. Never put it out for the public. But over 10 years, that made some good money.
Interesting. So you think your decision is, I don't want to get a job. I want to go build a business.
Well, at the time, I couldn't get a job because during the divorce, the judge says you have to pick your kids up at 3:00. And I said, what 9 to 5 job can I have? It's like, I don't know. You'll figure it out. So it's like, all right, I always thought with the mindset for success, this is what I teach in my mindfulness, like, what can I do? Not what can't I do? So I can teach. I'm from Philly. I can teach modeling, acting to these people in Erie, PA that want to learn this talent. And I know what to do. And I'm modeling for photographers and advertising companies. And they're there, Riana, do you have anybody like you? And it's like, no, I should train some. So that's how the ideas started. Well, my first month's rent. And then this is how the first book came along.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Okay, so moving forward, did you see this as a model, continue creating more businesses? Like, let's start off with a book and then continue building the business from that, or what happened from there?
No, it was really, to fill the model and talent business. I had enjoyed writing all through school, high school. I worked for the newspaper. I worked for the I submitted things for the poetry magazine as a younger girl. I got like 200 of my poems published.
Awesome.
So my childhood dream, one of them was to have books in Barnes Noble Bookstore, the big bookstore. It was something that I always dreamed to do. And it's like, these people can get them in there. I can too. And I ended up getting Who's Who of American High School Students, which is only one award in the school. And that was for English. And, I got it for my writing. So I always loved writing. I always felt I could speak a lot from the heart, and people enjoyed reading my writing. So the first book, it's like, okay, it's a necessary evil. I got to write this thing and it's got to be good. It's got to train my people. So that was the first book.
Okay.
And then the second book was donated to science.
Really?
This was for my triple master's in applied clinical and counseling psychology. And we had to do a thesis. So I ended up doing a neighborhood program called Ventnor Teen Vision, which was helping young people from, impoverished areas that were struggling. I was working at a high school, Atlantic City High School at the time, and I put notices on the high school. This was free. I got my city to back it with hot dogs and sodas, and we could use the big community room. And I taught the kids to meditate, but I did pre and post tests. And I'll tell you, they were into it. We had maybe about 80 kids.
Wow.
And then at the end, we did charity work, raising money for Feed the Homeless during Thanksgiving. So this was what my paper was written on, the success of this program. And it's about resiliency in high school kids. And if you type in the title, it's now written in like 14 different languages.
Yeah, well, give me that title again. I was trying to write it down.
Oh my gosh. Increasing self-esteem. It's a big scientific. I could go walk and get it and read it to you.
No worries. From the beginning, I can figure out the rest.
Yeah, look under my formal name, Riana Milne. And yeah, it's a science type paper. But now I see all these people like quoting from my research. And my professor mentor said, Riana, you just wrote a dissertation. It's like, I don't care what it is. I had to talk about the program and do pre and post tests and all the scientific measurements. So I've never made a dime on that. It's probably the hardest book I ever had to write because of all the science, that had to be cut into it. It was about 200 pages and 88 professional sources.
Absolutely. Love it. I'm in my doctoral program, and I keep looking at this dissertation. They keep giving these dissertations to read and analyze. I'm like, this is a lot of work. Like I can write a book, but this is a whole nother level of writing.
It is. And you've got to have everything exactly right. The way you cite the books and yeah.
Excellent. So we moved on. So on to the next one. This is awesome. I'm definitely going to look that up because I'm a nerd at this point. I really like reading stuff like that. But
okay. Yeah. The whole paper is online. It's through Rowan University. It's online now. Increasing self-concept and self-esteem in high-risk adolescents through the creative arts, blah, blah, blah. It was like they make them very long titles, So you'll find it out there.
Most definitely. I will find it. I got it.
Okay.
So moving on. So the next few books, I'm assuming we are moving into where you're coming to now.
So book number 3 was called Watch Me, The Bold New Motivational Attitude for Personal Success. So I wanted to write the mindset for success that I taught all my models and actors from this small town to move on to big talent, to movies, television, soap operas. One became a rockette. My own daughter was on E! Entertainment News and sings on 3 multi-platinum CDs and hosted for HGTV. So it's like, if you have the dream and the desire, I can teach you how to get there. That's what the book was about. But I did it on an online publishing firm online. And their guidelines were not very good. I didn't pick the right font that Barnes Noble likes. The cover was not right. So that was an expensive lesson, although my therapy clients really loved the book. So it's like, okay, this is not going to get in B&N. Nobody's writing me back. Nobody's doing anything with this. So I'm going to take a publishing course. So I took a $5,000 publishing course to learn the right thing to do. And they're there. Okay, so why do you want to be published? I asked everyone in this telephone class. I was the last one. And I said, because I want my books in the Barnes Noble stores. And everyone started laughing at me. And I said, watch me. I said, actually, that's the name of my book. When people doubt you, put you down. That's the name of my book. I'm going to rewrite it into the format that it needs to be done properly so that they will look at it right. So Live Beyond Your Dreams came out first, which is Live Beyond Your Dreams, From Fear and Doubt to Personal Power, Purpose, and Success. And that was 328 pages. Okay. And I used some of Watch Me, and then I updated it a lot, so I added many more pages, took some out, put some more in. That was kind of from that foundation. Okay,
so you expanded on Watch Me when you wrote Live Beyond Your Dream. Okay.
Correct. And I hired a great cover artist from Dunn Design. I mean, the cover alone was $3,000. I hired someone to do the writing of the back cover, because everything is down to an exact science I learned in my publishing class. Science I did not know of when I wrote Watch Me. So I had that already. And then I was doing so much work around childhood trauma and love and then my own experience happened. It's like, I got to write the book on love. What are you to watch out for? What questions should you be asking? So that book is over 400 pages. And that's the one that went to #1 bestseller on Amazon in couples therapy, women in spirituality, and #2 in psychology.
That's so interesting. Wow. You must have.
Yeah. Whew. And I wrote it from beginning of my idea to delivery at my door in Florida, because that's when I was moving to Florida, in 6 months.
See?
See?
TFP family, we keep trying to tell people they're when you decide it's about to get done, you just start writing and getting it done. If you have that message to get out. Otherwise, you probably need to wait out. You don't need to be writing then. Don't write.
Right. You have to have the passion.
Playing games.
It's not easy. I mean, the fun part is the writing. That book, I always learn, have 5 people do your first round of editing. What do they like, not like, don't get it? This is too mean, Rihanna. This is like too nice, whatever they want to give me. Then I correct it. Some ideas I like, some I don't like. Then it goes to the editor. Now we're talking another round of edits, 6, 7, 8 times. So I edited that thing about, 16 times. By the time it's at my door, it's like, yes, I did it. I put it on the coffee table. I was done. Like, I haven't read that book in years. And then I picked it up and read it again several years later. I'm like, wow, this is really good.
Yes. You're like, man.
It's like, because you get so sick of it. Yeah. You get so sick of it. And then it's, it was great, that it reached #1 bestseller. And how did I get in B&N store? Want to know that? Okay. So I did a nice press kit, with a nice card and sitting right here in front of me, even like little bookmarks. Everything, all the promotional materials, bookmarks, postcards, matching covers. And I walked into B&N store with 4 copies of my book, 1 copy for the manager, and 1 if they just want to throw it on the shelves and sell it, they couldn't keep the money. So I said, let me know if you'd like to, I'm local. I'd be glad to come in for book signings. So that's how it started. I started getting a lot of stores in the New Jersey, like Cherry Hill area, Philly, a little bit north and south of, that area. So I was in about 11 stores there. And then I came to Florida and did the same thing. It was about another 11 stores, and it just kind of got picked up.
Excellent. I love that. I love that. I really do. I love that. What the thing I'm hearing here, the consistent theme here is that you are continuing to evolve in your writing style. It seems like your skills are continuing to grow. It's one thing to write a book to help, to write a business for a business. It's a whole other thing to write another book that's academia.
Yeah.
Then to come back and write the next one, like, I'm going to write this book because I think it'll help people. But then say it's not good enough. Because you said earlier that you wanted to be in B&N. You wanted to be in Barnes Noble.
Yeah.
You are still pursuing this dream. I'm going to be in there. So what was that journey like for you as you continue to evolve your writing? It's like, because I see people deciding that they'll get scared. Like, I'm not going to write good enough. And you gave an idea of, and I'd love to hear your feedback on this too, as a side part, as part of this question. How do you know when to stop editing? Like, it's good enough, like, to stop. But what was that like, trying to figure out, like, improving my writing? How do I get to that next level? How do I become this next level writer as I write my next book and the next book?
Well, I wanted to, just as when I teach on a summit, yes, I come from a scientific background, but I never wanted to talk like a psychotherapist, just everyday, easy read, right? And everyone says that I worked with, I'm reading your books and it sounds like you're talking to me right in the room, I hear you through your words. So I would just say, talk like you write, to be relatable for people. And when I wrote Live, that was all about success in life. And then it's like, wow, I need one success in love. So it's like, they're called sister books. And a lot of people don't know, maybe you do, but that I was quoted, 0.5% of self-published authors get in B&N, Barnes Noble stores. And I said, that's what I was told in my publishing course too. And I said, great, there's plenty of room for me. So, people were kind of watching.
There's that mindset right there.
That's right. So the first one I did was the remake of Live. And then after that course, I did Love with the same vendors working on the books. So they looked identical, just, different covers, but the same feel. And, it's just knowing when you're done, it's like, it's good enough. And you can't be perfectionism around your book. If you're working with a good editor who gets to know your voice, they're not going to change your voice that much, but they will make sure they do the proper English.
Absolutely.
Right.
Excellent.
So they're not looking to change your book or your message if your message is solid.
Absolutely.
And I chose to self-publish because there's charity based around my books. So if I went to like Simon and Schuster, they take the lion's share and then they give you a quarter. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this I can get about 50%. And then, part of that goes to the charities. And that's more of what I wanted. And I really wrote it with my clients in mind, plus BNN was for the public, but it's part of my coaching program.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I definitely want to touch on that, but before we touch on that, I want to hear about the charities. What are you building? Is it like, do you advertise it in there? Like a part of this is going towards this foundation?
Yeah, I put that in the book. Live, I have my daughter, Alexi Panos, contribute to the Backend. She's a global speaker. A lot of people know her. She's amazing. And I said, one day you might want to write your own book. If you get in the back of mom's book, now you're already a published author.
Look at
So she did. So I said, contribution by Alexi Panos. And now she's got her own 2 books in Barnes Noble, so that was easier. She already had something. But she has a charity called Epic Everyday People Initiating Change, which puts water wells in Tanzania, Africa, since the age of 20. And she has, her and her best friend Tennille have 21 wells there. And then I'd give out a yearly scholarship to any high school student that wants to apply, that's going to go to some schooling for an art. So, because me and my girls were in the arts, so singing, modeling, dancing, DJ work, broadcasting, just something artsy, performing arts, because there's never scholarships for that.
I was thinking, like, I know my sister does band scholarship, but is there anything for that other stuff? I can't think of it.
Not usually. And my girls were into that. And so was I, with the Model and Talent Company. So it's a $500 scholarship that is offered every year through that book. And then Love Book gives donations to different charities that help women and people of domestic violence.
Excellent. Love that. Appreciate that. So let's go into like how your book is helping to build your business. How are you using this? How are you using your books before and after, your business looking like before and after you start publishing these books?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the concepts in my books are part of my coaching. But then when I got more and more into my research, which was after I wrote those books, with the childhood and love trauma piece, then I started doing like workbook pages and handing them out to my clients. And they're like, Riana, you got to make a book with these one day. It's like, I know, another book. So I ended up writing a workbook for singles and a workbook for couples. And they're 150 pages each. And they are quick and easy, but extremely insightful worksheets that my coaching clients do. And then it's interactive to help them heal from past trauma and grow on to the mindset for success. Okay. So that's book number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right? Did I miss one?
Well, you have
the modeling book, the science book. We had
the science book, Watch Me, Live, Love, and then we have the 2.
The 2 workbooks.
We're about halfway through today's show, and I want to give you a quick word from our sponsor before finishing the interview. Today's show is sponsored by Thought Fortune Press. You probably know that if you're not an authority in your industry, nobody's hearing your message. And you may know that the number one way to build your authority is by authoring a book. What you probably don't know is that you can write the manuscript for your book in less than 4 hours. I'm D. Orlando Fortune, the lead self-publishing strategist for Thought Fortune Press, where we turn your ideas into a branded book that brings in the cash by sharing your unique message and positioning you as an authority in your industry. If you're an entrepreneur or a speaker who's thinking about already writing or want to publish your next book, but you don't want to write it, or you just want to get help getting it done, your first step is a Wealthy Author Roadmap. This is a call to help us get to the heart of what you do for your customers. Together, we'll determine how a book will help you establish more credibility in your customers' minds and make a bigger impact in their lives, while also, of course, increasing your revenues. During the call, we'll walk you through designing your book's outline and its content and create a publishing timeline that fits your goals, even if that means getting it done in as little as 90 days. What makes us different is that we know a book is only the first step into your world. Not only do we help you write the book, but we work with you on creating a signature suite of products, all from your book's one outline. We do all of this using the 5 phases of our proprietary system, the Signature Book Formula. To get started on your personalized wealthy author roadmap, go to thoughtfortunepress.com and click the gold Start Here button at the top of the page. Now remember, you're only one book away. So let us at Thought Fortune Press guide you to becoming an author. Go to thoughtfortunepress.com today. Now let's get back to the tips and today's phenomenal show with Riana Milne.
So right now I'm 100 pages into my trauma book. Mm-hmm. And a secret that I have for your listeners is I usually try and go away by myself for a week to start writing. And I may take some of the books that I want to quote, like that I've read. It's like, oh yeah, I want to quote this stuff in the book. And I still enjoy that vacation. Like I wrote in Acapulco. I went for a week by myself and I toured Acapulco and I was at the beach and but I also wrote 100 pages within, 6 days. So that was very productive. And I sit my desk overlooking the ocean, or if I can out on the balcony. So I get the air and I'm looking at the ocean. So I'm enjoying myself and writing. And I used to do that when I lived in New Jersey, coming down to Florida because my parents had a place in Pompano. So that was easy to do as well. It's like, all right, I need a week. Nobody's there. Great. Come down. I'm going to write the love book now. So that always got me a big chunk of my book started, and the rest I can add in. And I always found if I got my chapter headings first, whatever I felt like writing that day, maybe I'd write something on parenting relationships, or, are you love addicted? Are you codependent? The different types of chapters. It's whatever I felt like writing at that particular time.
Absolutely. I love that. Because I definitely know that some days as I'm writing a book, I don't want to write about what the next chapter is. I'm not feeling that today.
Don't feel it. And you can jump all over the place. It's easier that way.
Yep, and put it back together at the end. So I love that. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So before we go into the next question here on what did you learn about learning, what you learned from the writing process, I do want to hear more about what this looks like as far as healing from the past, these childhood wounds. How would a person, how would someone in my audience, how much part of TFP family know that they might want to look deeper into this? I mean, you already had said that majority of us have one out of one to three of them already.
If you'd like, Fortune, I'll mention the 10 if you'd like.
I'm open.
Okay, let's do it, because it's really cutting edge research. And once people hear this, they're like, aha, I get it, why this stuff is coming up. So we'll go into the 10 and then how it shows up, because that'll make the most sense for everyone. So if you're at home and able to write down on a piece of paper with a pen, that would be a good idea. Make 3 columns. The first one you put me. The second one you put a partner, maybe someone you struggled with. And the third column you put parents. Again, because it shows this goes through 3 generations. So you could put, if this applied to your mom, dad, or both, it will help complete some of the story of, what happened when you were young. And this, again, is not about blame or shame. We're not looking to blame your mom and dad at this point in your life. And it's not about shaming you. We're trying to look at what were the facts that occurred while you were in this household as a little innocent person. Okay, so that's what we're trying to look at. Okay, so the first one is, was there any addiction in mom or dad? So now the Kaiser Permanente study out of San Diego that talks about ACEs, adverse childhood events, does only the correlation from unhealed childhood trauma to early disease and illness in life. And they proved that very profoundly with over 17,000 people. But they didn't attack how it influences us in love, life, or business. That's the end I looked at. So it's very interesting. Our lists were different, quite different originally. And then they've added more things to their list years after that were on my list years ago. Interesting, but it's from my work from trauma. Okay, so addiction is one, but they just say if your mom and dad used alcohol, me being an addictions counselor, I name 11 of them. So it's drugs, alcohol, sex, meaning chronic cheating, porn, gambling, hoarding, spending, eating, gaming, TV watching, workaholism.
I didn't know hoarding was an addiction, but I guess it makes sense. Okay.
Addicted to things.
Yeah, it makes sense after you saying it. It's like, but I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah, there's many more addictions other than those, but those are some of the top popular ones. Second is verbal abuse. Now, they mentioned if you witness mom and dad yelling at each other, which is in my list too. But it was very profound with my kids that I saw, the children I worked with, they were hearing a lot of put downs. Being screamed at. You won't amount to anything. You're up to no good. Your opinion doesn't matter. Nor did they hear, I love you, or great job. I'm proud of you. So verbal abuse or trauma can happen very much in that way. With a kid always striving to get some compliments or to hear, I love you. It's very sad when they don't. All right. The third one is emotional abuse or neglect. We pretty much know what that looks like. The fourth one is physical abuse, beating, sexual abuse, rape, or molestation. That could have occurred inside or outside of the home. And that's why I said some of these go into later years as well as could happen in early years. Okay. The next one is abandonment. They didn't even have this on the list. And I saw so many cases of abandonment. So there's two types that I named, fault and no fault. So a fault abandonment would be if a parent chose to never be in the child's life. They were in the life for a little while, but divorced and took off or left the relationship and rarely sees that child. Or even, you have some time with that child, but it's inconsistent and you're not really having good quality time. Okay. A no fault abandonment would be if a parent died early or was taken away from you. Right? If they went off to war to help serve their country, or like my situation, my dad worked away from the home a lot, but we did not know he was FBI and CIA. My dad was like James Bond. But I do remember as a little kid asking, when's daddy coming home? And nobody knew. Nobody knew where my dad was. He was out there floating around in the world somewhere. But in the end, we knew why. It would have helped us maybe to know earlier, but you can't tell your families, So that is a way, if they're supporting your family, it's no fault, but he was still away a lot. Okay. The next one is if you were adopted, part of the foster care system, or had to go live in another folks' homes, even your parents or grandparents or your aunts, because your mom and dad couldn't take care of you. Next one, and this is the most common trauma, number 7, personal trauma. That's if you were ever bullied, didn't feel good enough, didn't fit in. You might have been an overweight child. You might have been skinny and gawky or called a nerd. You might have had asthma or another medical condition or labeled ADHD in the schools. Anything where you just felt different and not good enough. That's a huge one. Trauma number 8 is sibling trauma. That's if your sibling bullied you, if they might have been born with a medical condition commanding more of mom's and dad's time, or most commonly you perceive them to be the golden child. So they might have been more talented, more athletic, smarter than you. Somehow they got the favoritism of mom and dad. Okay. Trauma number 9 has 2 parts, and one part is from the later list because there are more than 10 traumas, but I had to bring this in because this is happening so often. So 9A is family trauma, and this is if anyone was incarcerated, if you grew up in a dangerous neighborhood. You remember a lot of talk around lack. We don't have enough money. We don't have money for food or fuel, for the heat the house, whatever. If your family was a military family and you moved every 2 to 4 years, that put the kids as the new kid in the school.
All the time.
You know how that is. Or if, you might have lost a home by mortgage crises. That was another time that kids struggled. Part B is community trauma. That's our mass shootings, our school shootings, or loss of our neighborhoods, massive loss with Mother Nature. fires, floods, hurricanes, volcanoes. I mean, all these natural disasters. Very traumatic for families and for little kids. And then the last one is if there's a mental health issue in mom or dad. The two most difficult for children to navigate is bipolar and borderline. Borderline is very erratic moods. You never know what you're going to get. So when they're good, they're great, but when they're bad, they're horrid, and very hard to understand. And then bipolar is manic depressive. So depression can come out as fatigue, checking out emotionally, or anger. And manic phase could be high and happy, but also a gambling spree, spending spree, eating binge, anything like that. So those are the 10 traumas that I name.
Excellent. And so with our 3 lists, we just kind of check off if I had this one for me, for a friend, a relationship.
Yeah. If you remember struggling with someone in a relationship, then you want to look at it first with how many did you have, then how many did they have? Because research shows people of trauma attract people of trauma, and then they struggle.
I get a lot of these.
And if your mom had the issues, dad or both might have had those issues. So those are the 10. And then once I meet with people individually, we do a rating of 1 to 10 with severity. So someone that might have had really 3 bad, horrible beatings in their life, say, oh, they were horrible. That was like a 4 to me. It's like, okay, that's their perception. But someone being beat 3 times a week, every day of their childhood life, that's certainly a 10, right? So everybody is a different puzzle. We have to look at severities, what comes up, and then what are you struggling with right now in life? So how this shows up in life, for example, is addiction, ongoing anxiety, bouts of depression, not feeling good enough, sabotaging yourself, like my partner did, in relationships, being stuck and not finishing your book because you're not feeling it's good enough. It's never good enough. So you could have perfectionism, right? A lot of people that want control as adults had no control or little control as a kid. So they crave control as an adult.
I can understand that. That makes sense.
Jealousy comes from trauma number 7. And maybe, trauma number 2, hearing you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough. Also being bullied at school because you felt different. So that can come out as jealousy. Your partner may be showing you totally, I love you and doing all the right things, but you're still jealous. Then that's coming from a deep unhealed wound.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few of these, about 3 of them that I'm looking at like, that explains some things. I didn't know how to put the labels on them. It's just kind of stuff like I've went through it and was just like, yeah, other people went through it and don't think anything of it. Like it just happens. Like it's life and keep moving on. But now you're saying that your research has shown that these types of things lead to other things manifesting in my life.
Yes.
Causing other problems in my life.
Yes.
That's relationships, your business, finances, whatever. And to manifest in these different areas that you just.
So let's break a couple of them down, like finances. Okay. If you grew up with that lack message, hearing we don't have enough and witnessing the struggle or the fighting of mom and dad due to there's not enough money or he's not leaving her enough money, whatever, to, get food for the kids. That was one fight I heard a lot. You might be one tempted to go out and buy a lot for yourself. This is when buying becomes love, right?
Right.
Or women that want the designer labels. Oh, I need to have that. Then I'll be important, or then I'll look like I have plenty of money. So that can come out in many different ways. Or the opposite, if you grow up with lack, you might be afraid to spend $3,000 on your book cover because it's like, wow, that's a lot of money. What if it doesn't work? Maybe I'll just get this artist for $150. So for me, it's like, I'm doing whatever it takes. I know the inside is good. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make that book work in the way that I want it to work, so, and then you believe in yourself. It's just a matter of like, here we go on to the next step. But that takes confidence. It takes confidence in your abilities to, put that book out there in a good way. people pleasing. A lot of women do that in their relationships. And this is a woman, if they come to me in a couple, she'll there, oh gosh, Riana, I'm so burnt out. I do everything for my husband and my kids. They do nothing for me. I'm the only one showing love, and they never do for me or show me love back. And this might have been the woman that grew up with the alcoholic mother, who did everything to get the siblings ready for school, the breakfast out to the bus stop, so the hungover mother was not yelling and screaming at them all in the morning. And that was her survival mechanism. And these things just become normalized. And that's the problem.
Yeah.
So there's so many different examples I can give you.
Excellent. No, I know. I appreciate that, because, it's not to say that everybody, like, you have some craziness or whatever going on and that you're all messed up. But there's some explanation to why you may behave a certain way. And because you become more aware of that, of course, with me working my own program, that awareness helps me to start dealing with it. Now, how do I deal with this now that I'm aware of it? What do I do from now?
That's right.
Part of that solution, I heard you say, is about dealing with spirituality. So I definitely got to hear you talk about spirituality as it relates to these areas and others.
Sure. Well, I became spiritual when my very dear childhood friend, we were friends since we were 6, lived down the street and across the cornfield from me. So we were good buddies. And unfortunately, he was killed by a drunk driver when we were 16. And I had to make some sense out of that death, because he was such a good person. Everyone in our school loved him. And I started reading in spirituality about that time. And then when I was at Penn State, my college roommate was murdered by her boyfriend in a domestic violence incident. So for Michael, I promised to help people with drug and alcohol issues, and I became LCADC, alcohol counselor. And for Corinne, I promised her, and, in my mind and heart, spiritually, that I would help women of domestic violence. And, my book does. And so does my program. A lot of women turn to me, and men that have been violated emotionally, abused emotionally. And this is also for straight and LGBT couples as well, or singles. So I have been studying spirituality since my young 20s. I really got into the Course of Miracles. I really like that, and I talk a lot about that, living in the light versus living in the dark side of light. In the light, this is where you're consciously aware, you're proactive. In the dark, you're unaware and you're reactive. You see, so every choice, everything you say, do, is it on the positive side or is it in the negative side of life? So in positivity, there's happiness and purpose and love and passion and friendship, everything that makes you feel good. And then the dark side is anger, anxiety, depression, addiction. And with the addiction, once it starts, or in the dark side, it's like a tornado. If you're mad at your boss at home, at work, you come home, you're mad at your wife, and you're mad at your kids, and it just all, is a big tornado. It's a mess. And, like the yin yang circle is what I use from Buddhism. I love Buddhism. And in the light, there's that little dark dot. And I said, that's the life challenges that are supposed to come up. We're in the earth school, according to Buddhism, and we're supposed to be challenged. So if you're primarily living in the light and feeling very peaceful and calm about your life, when a challenge comes up, it's like, okay, well, this isn't working out for some reason. So what do I need to do next? Like Watch Me didn't get into BNN. So what do I need to do next? Well, now that I'm in this publishing course, I see I had the wrong font and the wrong type of copy on the cover. And you're only supposed to have so many syllables in your title for your cover, all these scientific little things I had no idea, nor was I taught. So it's like, okay, I'll learn how to do that. That's fine. And I'll just rewrite it to meet all these criteria. I can do that. So it's like, what can I do? Not, oh, why me? That's on the dark side. That's a reaction. Pro side is what can I do?
I just saw a parallel between this subtle little bar. This little subtle bar. Y'all just got to catch the subtle bar and how it applies in so many different areas. As far as there's light and the dark, the spirituality, but then you also talk about the science that's talking about these core beliefs about self and how you can improve those confidence, step into confidence, and start doing more things as we talk about the childhood trauma and so forth. I
Right.
see both sides are talking about the same thing. So,
Well,
am I?
remember, the
Mm-hmm,
childhood trauma is very unconscious
mm-hmm,
and it's usually unhealed, but trauma stays stored in the brain and the body cells.
mm-hmm,
And what was frustrating with me, with my ex-husband, who we had this amazing love relationship, traveled the world together. Nobody would have thought anything was wrong. And all of a sudden, boom, it was like a PTSD response for me.
wow.
And it was like, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what he has. I don't know why he would do that. He didn't know why he would sabotage.
Mm-hmm,
So it's a very frustrating to be, as you don't know what you don't know. So I describe it like a rainbow. As you
mm-hmm,
learn, as your unconscious becomes consciously aware, which is a spiritual
mm-hmm,
phenomenon, right?
mm-hmm,
As you get more trust because you have faith in what you can do and start changing your life, creating the life that you want, you go up that rainbow, but you're going to slip and you'll go up and you're going to slip. And people say, why do you have to slip? Because the unconscious is so strong.
mm-hmm.
And when you come from childhood trauma, part of the survival was looking outside of yourself. Well, it's their fault. If mom would have said she loved me, then I would have been more lovable, or, kind of that blame thing, which is in the dark side. And
Mm-hmm.
then in the light side is like taking responsibility. What did I go through? And that's okay. But now what can I do with that? So once we know what the childhood traumas were, we become very consciously aware at changing the personality
Mm-hmm.
and the habits and the behaviors to be very positive.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the sayings I have is it for the good of all? Before you
This is the good one.
do
Mm-hmm.
something, say something, write or text, is that for the good of all? And if it's not, don't do it. If in doubt, go without.
If in doubt, go without.
Don't
Okay.
do it.
I just
Yeah.
lost my pen. I got to listening to you, and I put my pen and just tucked away and was just nodding. There we go. Hold on. I got it now.
So yeah, there's a lot of spirituality. All my clients meditate. Meditation shows it decreases anxiety, depression, cortisol level, which is your fight or flight response, which keeps you in anxious or agitated state, and lowers blood pressure, increases dopamine and serotonin levels of the brain. So
Mm-hmm.
myself and my clients, we meditate 15 minutes every day.
Mm-hmm.
We have a 4-step meditation called Divine Spiritual Meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's all kinds of different techniques that everybody does. And then depending on the person, I might have some vitamin therapy for them, if they're showing high anxiety or high in depression. But none of my people are on psychotropic drugs. They don't
I
need
love
them.
that. They
don't
need
need
I
them. It's a mindset.
I
You get the
love that. I
mind
love
super
that.
strong.
I love that. And so before we go into this, we still got some more questions. A few more questions before we start wrapping up here. But I still have a question here. Just a personal thing. Just want to know, what are your feelings? What are your thoughts about morning routines? Because it seems like this would be something that
It's very important, morning routines. Meditation is part of our morning routine.
Right, that's what made me think about
So it's taking our vitamins, working in your exercise workouts, working in your dates, working in your fun time. You can't just have all work. And that's why I said, even if you're writing a book, you've got to take those head breaks, and schedule in fun time as well.
Excellent. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. So as we move forward here, I want to ask about your best book promotion tip before we move into the final, more personal, fun questions. So what is your best book promotion tip?
I think it was walking into the individual stores in Barnes Noble with free books for the manager. She could give the second set to somebody, one of the salespeople, or put it on her shelf, whatever. And then just calling and asking to be a part of local author day. I've gone and given speeches on how to write a book that Barnes Noble will put inside their stores. So I offered to be helpful in any of their events that they had going on. Holiday promotions, I offered to come in. I sat for like 6 hours doing book signings or walking around the stores and saying I'm a local author in signing books today. So I would help them sell books.
Being of use. Okay, being of service, excuse me. Excellent. So let me Was it was it hardcover or soft cover? Did you put in there? You
No, they're
dropped in there?
paperback books.
Paperback. Okay.
Hmm.
Cool. Interesting. So,
Cheaper to
because I
mail,
think,
you
yeah, but
know.
I was thinking that it's been a bookstore. They're gonna like Barnes and Noble, maybe a smaller one, local one. But I was thinking it needed to be hardcover. But no. Okay. Cool.
No, no,
Cool.
they're very high gloss, very pretty water scenes. Let me see if because I love the water. It's a personal thing.
Hmm.
This sometimes does not show. Okay. That's
Uh,
Alexi on. So it's Live Beyond Your Dreams. I don't know there.
there you go. That could a little
That's
lower there.
it's really
Okay.
weird with the picture.
No worries.
But they're water scenes, very pretty pastel, and then love is more fiery. That code title is Break Free of Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve. So they're both rated 5 stars on Amazon, and they're on Nook and Kindle. So I did both formats for the books as well.
Excellent. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay.
Mhm.
So we already talked about how you're leveraging your book. So let's move into some of the fun, more personal stuff. So
Okay.
the first question is, what do you do on your days off that most people don't know about?
Oh, well, I do like Sundays at CSL, Center for Spiritual Living. So I'm
Really?
pretty dedicated to going to, it's not even a church, it's in a building, but there's
Mm-hmm.
500 CSLs in the country. So there may be one near you.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal message on a weekly basis. Or I watch Joel Osteen Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Saturdays, I love beach time. That's when I can go down,
Mm-hmm.
just chill out and read.
Mm-hmm.
During the weekends, I love to go out and dance. What people
Really?
may
What
not
kind of
know
dance?
about me, man, I was a disco queen. I had the
What?
Tramps partying at my house in Philadelphia.
Wow.
And my favorite story was when I danced the entire encore with Freddie Mercury of Queen, the night of
Mm-hmm.
the opera concert in Philly.
Really?
Yeah, I worked for a radio station. So we brought in John Lennon and Alice Cooper, and I got to
Mm-hmm.
meet all the celebs when I was a teenager, and they paid me for that. It's like, oh,
Mm.
what a great job.
Yeah.
But
That's
that one
awesome.
with Freddie, I got to dance the entire encore. It was supposed to be 2 songs, and they went to 4. So that was really cool. Yeah.
Awesome. That is
So
awesome. 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 All right. So, what is your favorite book?
ah, I don't know. I have to say my Love Beyond Your Dreams book is my favorite just because
Mm-hmm.
it was really helpful for me to do that research right after my relationship exploded,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the writing was very therapeutic.
Love it. Love it.
That was a time that I needed healing. I needed answers. Nobody else could give me answers. There was no therapist that understood. Childhood trauma wasn't talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So everything I've researched started coming to my healing. I was so impassioned about writing it. So I have to say that's probably my favorite book.
Love it.
Outside of that, I love all the masters, Dalai Lama, Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson. I tend to read spiritually motivational books my
Okay.
whole life. Tony Robbins, since I've been 16, that's what I've been reading.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. It definitely shows in the way you express yourself through on both sides. Even though you're in medicine and science,
Mm-hmm.
it's still there, like, which is still awesome to me that you have the foundation is in spirituality, but then you moved into the science and explain the stuff that it's just I need a little more than the spirit is off. I need a little more
Right.
than that to understand what's going on. I love that you gave about the healing portion there. I believe your favorite quote is, "You can't change what you don't understand."
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's so
So
important.
most definitely, most definitely. Before answering the last final questions here on what's coming up next for you, and how to TFE family can connect with you, find out more about what you have to offer there, and then getting into their own healing, where to get to grab the copies of the workbook and so forth. Um, Let me take the mic right now. It's your audience, your microphone, your camera, to share it with the TFP family what your message is. Give them what your message to them is.
Really, I just want to say, don't wait. Time is so short. With the loss of my 2 friends, I always questioned how much time do I have? If writing a book is in your soul, in your heart, then just do it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. Don't, let anyone tell you it's ridiculous. That's what people thought when I was doing all of mine. Who cares? It's about you and your message. So take a few days, go somewhere quiet where there's no one that can bother you, and just start. That's number one. Number two, now is the time to create that life that you desire and to have the love you deserve. If you're in any emotional or abusive relationship, there is love on the other side of that. Either reach out for help. If they won't go, you start the process, and two things will happen. They're going to get nervous you're going to leave and they're going to join you, or you're going to get strong enough to leave and then you go on to have a more fantastic life. Mm-hmm. So don't wait on any of that. And I'm here to help you if I can in any way.
Excellent. Thank you, Riana. Mm-hmm. The last thing, so as we find out, you said there, you have a gift for the TFB family.
I have lots of gifts. I come bearing gifts. Most of them are on my website, rianamilne.com. Okay, so as soon as you get in there, it says, take the free love test. So you have the childhood trauma checklist, the ACOA checklist, and one for single, one for couples, and they're free. They'll give you a lot of insight about what we talked about today. Second, if you scroll down, you'll see free book chapter downloads of both Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams. Remember, they're sister books meant to go together. One's about the mindset for success. One's about success and love. So download them both, enjoy them. And if you do order them, please leave me a 5-star rating and review. Us authors always love our reviews. Also, you'll see a way that you can download my free app. It's Lessons in Life and Love on the go. And my podcast, I release a new show every Friday. It's called Lessons in Life and Love. I talk about all the areas: love, life, mindset, business, parenting, all life areas with this mindset for success. So there's much to learn over there, some phenomenal guests. So go on and check that out. And then there is the ebook that goes more into the childhood trauma stuff. And there's about 12 pages there. So that's at havethelove-you-deserve.com. havethelove-you-deserve.com.
Excellent. Definitely have those in the show notes. Is there any other way that you want the TFB family to connect with you, social, anything like that?
If you really are struggling after you do the love test and you want to meet with me personally, there is a way to do that right on my website. It's a one-time low rate offer, and I dive very deep into the test that you take, and you're going to learn a whole lot in that first hour. And it's actually 2 meetings with me, getting to the bottom of what's going on for you in life or love.
Love it. I believe it just from our conversation. I mean, I have a lot of notes. Just sitting here.
That's just notes. The tip of the iceberg. I mean, there's so much to teach you guys. Yeah.
I absolutely believe that. So Riana, I thank you so much for being on the show, for sharing your message, Fortune. Being so transparent. And then helping us to understand more about our own limiting beliefs and how there is solution out here for us. There is some help out here to get to that next level in our lives and in our love.
Yes, that's right. You can heal this. That's the good news. You don't have to stay stuck, and you want to heal it, not only for yourselves, but for your children. So important. Like I look at my daughters that, had a difficult father, and they are just excelling in life.
Yeah.
And,
foundations out here, putting wells out in the African stuff. Just love it.
Now she speaks around the world, and she was in Forbes and Inc. magazine top 11 female entrepreneurs. She did hosting on HGTV and sings on multi-platinum CDs. So my other daughter's equally successful in her career choices. It's just, once you have the mindset for success or can teach your children this way of being and living, it's just so much easier.
That's what's up.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Love it. So thank you so much for me. God bless you.
Thank you, Fortune.
So much for pouring into the TFB family.
You're welcome. God bless everybody.
You've just listened to episode number 31 of the Wealthy Author Podcast with your host, D. Orlando Fortune. That's me. That's your boy. And I want to give thanks to our creator, y'all. We got to give thanks to our creator. But I want to ask you, do you have any questions or comments? If you do, go ahead and email them to fortune@thoughtfortunepress.com. Again, fortune at thoughtfortunepress.com. That comes direct to me. And if you want to turn your ideas into a branded book that books more speaking engagements, generates more leads, head over to thoughtfortunepress.com/4brains. FOUR, or they just use the number for it. Either way, it gets you there. thoughtfortunepress.com/4brains to grab a copy of the 4Brains template and map out your book. Y'all, it's so easy. You'll wonder why everyone hasn't written a book. That's thoughtfortunepress.com/4brains. And y'all, if you like the show, do us a favor, share, like, and join. Take a screenshot and share the episode with the hashtag Wealthy Author Podcast. Show us how much you like us by giving us 5 stars and a review on iTunes. And finally, join us every week by subscribing to the podcast so that you don't miss an episode. That's all for today, y'all. And as always, say it loudly and do it proudly. You know the mantra. Make life happen every day. And remember, you're only one book away. God bless. Talk to you next time.